here with Luke Carroll, IFBB Pro, and Austin Karr, IFBB Pro, and today we're going to be talking about site enhancement and some of the recent events that have happened, and also proper cycle design. So recently, actually within the last couple of days, there was a guy named Illia Golem that passed away, and you want to show?
Yep.
He's a 352-pound, I guess you'd call him a bodybuilder. I say I guess because, well, I guess he was a bodybuilder, but in my opinion, he wasn't a real bodybuilder.
I mean, I don't think he was a competitive bodybuilder, but
Right.
he definitely he definitely trained, definitely took a lot of gear, took a lot of synthol, did a lot of stuff to look enormous.
Get into a little bit more of what he did, but he was a disciple of the late Rich Piana. And I'm pretty positive by the look of him that he did exactly what Rich Piana did. And he just passed away last couple of days. Rich Piana passed away a couple of years back. And prior to him was a guy named Nasser El Sonbaty, who was a famous Olympia competitor, one of the top Olympic competitors of all time. Arguably could have won Mr. Olympia a couple of times, at least one year. And so we're going to talk about different site enhancement things and how it's evolved over the years. So first of all, I'll start with Nasser El Sonbaty. And the reason I'm starting with him is because I actually met Nasser personally back, I believe it was in 2005. Yeah, 2005. I was preparing for the NPC USAs, and I happened to be driving down to Mexico, and I stopped by what's now called The Gym, but it was World Gym at the time. And I was training there. I was about 230 pounds, and I ran into Nasser. And I told him I'm about 6 weeks out from the USAs, and he took a look at me, and he said he thought I looked good. He thought I could do well, and he offered to train me. And this guy was like a top Olympic competitor, so sure, I took him up on it. And Nasser put me on a crazy protocol, basically destroyed me in a short period of time.
Do you want to talk about the protocol a little bit? I'm curious to hear about it.
Yeah.
What was it?
But
What was it?
We'll get into it.
yeah, I'm going to get into details.
He's gonna give the overview, and then he'll give details.
So first of all, I was a high intensity trainer, and he was a high volume trainer. So I started training with him, and it was like tons of sets, really fast paced, lots of reps. And I'll explain to you why he did that in a moment. Gear usage, I can't remember the actual dosages, but it was the most I've ever taken ever. I want to say it was like probably 3 grams or more of various compounds. GH, the whole thing, training twice a day, cardio twice a day. And he's the first person that taught me about synthol. I knew about synthol, but I've never used it, and I didn't know how to use it. So he's the one that introduced me to synthol. And he specifically wanted me to use it in my shoulders and arms. And he gave me this regimen. It was 3 cc's in my front delt, 3 cc's in my side delt, 3 cc's in my rear delt, 3 cc's on the outer head of my bicep, 3 cc's on the inner head of my bicep, 3 cc's on the long head of my tricep.
Boston Lloyd would have loved this guy.
3 cc's on the lower head of my tricep, and 3 cc's on the outer head of my tricep. So if you add that up, what is that? 9,
21?
18,
I think more than that.
and 6.
The 7-8 sites.
24.
24 cc's.
24 milliliters per what? Per day, week?
No. This is
Daily?
No. 24 milliliters injected into my shoulder and arm. That's on one side. So that's on the other side of the arm. The other side of the arm. So that's 48 milliliters of oil. Three times a week.
Mm.
48 times 3 is 96.
Yeah. So literally I loaded up these syringes full of the oil, and I'd have, let's see, 3, 6, 8. So 16 syringes full. And I'd have them all laid out, and I'd sit in a chair just like this, and my ex-wife would inject me. And it took like an hour for her to inject that all over. Yeah, it was not pleasant at all. And it has to go deep. So you had to use a 1.5 inch, 22 gauge needle.
Ooh.
The whole time.
How long did you do this for?
He had me doing this, I don't know, it was like probably 5 weeks, last 5 weeks of the prep.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, it didn't really work for me very well because in the time I'm doing it, I'm also starving and had me doing crazy amounts of cardio. So I think I was like burning up the oil as I was doing it.
Yeah. From my understanding, you do have a fast metabolism, and that is it's actually like edible oil that you're putting in there. So you actually are turning that into like triglycerides, and they're just turning into food. So you're actually maybe hurting your ability to get lean enough because you're taking in so much food. I mean, what'd you say that was? It was 48 cc's. And I mean, each cc has got to be like, I don't know, 20 calories or something like that. So you're taking in an extra.
Well, it wasn't enough calories because I was dropping weight like crazy because.
Well, if you're on a low enough,
he literally had me starving to death and doing cardio twice a day.
Me and Phil Viz actually have a hypothesis that that's why some of these guys aren't getting in shape and can't get in shape, because they're shooting in so much, and then they're actually just offsetting the amount that they would be burning with just extra oil that they're injecting instead of eating it, but it's still giving them their body calories. So,
I guess that's possible.
I think in those days, synthol was more of just like electrolytes and oil. Nowadays, it's like a PPMA, or it's the
no
hyaluronic acid.
It's just all it is it's oil, and some people are putting silicone in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, that there's different types of site enhancement oil,
but mostly it's just MTC oil. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, you're just trying to inflate the muscle with as much oil as you can.
And the one we used was pump and pose, so it was like MTC oil with some lidocaine in it, so it would kind of numb the site when you're injecting all this oil in you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it didn't work for me. I went from 230 pounds, almost in shape, to light heavyweight, completely depleted and everything. But that's not. I don't want to really talk about my situation. I mean, that was my experience with it. I have other experience with it as well. I'll tell you that in a minute. But the reason for the high volume pumping training, I'll tell you now, is because you can't train heavy with this stuff. Because if you do train heavy, you'll literally push the oil out of the muscle and it'll under the skin.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't lift anything heavy. That's why you'll see these guys like in the rope doing like 10 million things with 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Just to pump blood in there. But
there's not it's not progressive overload training.
No, you can't lift anything heavy because literally the oil will leak out of the muscle and go under the skin. And then you have like this film of oil between your skin and your muscle. So any definition or vascularity or whatever will be gone. But what happened with when I first met Nasser, he told me that the synthol was spreading through his body like a cancer and it was killing him. And he was having massive deep tissue massage all the time to break up the scar tissue that was created by the synthol. And like he said, it was spreading through his body like a cancer. He told me this in the evening. The next morning we met to train, and he flexes his bicep and he goes, I did it here, here, and here.
So he did more.
So literally,
even after he said it was killing him.
After he said it was killing him, he was still injecting it. So this is insanity. He's like getting deep tissue massage to break up the scar tissue, to remove the stuff, and then he'd put more in. He actually told me, said to me, have you ever after a show drained the oil out?
Because it's infected?
I don't know, just to take it out of there.
I guess that's an oil change.
I'm like, this is the first time I've done this. I never did it before. So I don't know. But anyways, so that's how people started with the synthol. And I would say it did work. Like if you look at Nasser, he looked unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what you're looking at. Now, fast forward, you have Rich Piana, who became the crazy super freak of Team C. What is it? 5cc.
No, 5%.
5%. Yes.
3cc was Boston.
Yeah. 5cc. 5%. Anyways.
5%.
So Rich was already a pretty big guy. He had placed well at nationals, but then he became a super freak. And what I mean by that, he had like 24, 25 inch arms.
Yeah, look at this photo.
Yeah, and
just massive, insane shoulders. His 26-inch arm, insane shoulders, like, and then the rest of his body, his back and his chest was like, not nearly. I think this might be an enhanced photo even, but
what people don't realize is those of us who knew him. Okay, so you had the Rich Piana that was a big guy who had been training for probably 20 years. And then all of a sudden, within like less than a year period of time, he went from probably 21-inch arms to 24-inch arms after training 20 years. Like you don't just all of a sudden put 3 inches on your arms after you're that far into it. You pretty much max out your genetics.
Yeah.
And he actually asked me to help him prep for the last show he did because he didn't know how to diet or anything. And when I first met him, he flexed his arm and he said they're 24 inches. And I said to him, I looked at his arm, I said, Rich, what's in your arm? And he goes, nothing. He goes, nothing, just side injections. And I'm like, come on, Rich, this is me. I can see it. There's something in your arm. Like it looks like a football. It doesn't move when you flex it. It doesn't change shape. There's no separation between your bicep and your tricep. It's just this big mass. And he kind of got mad about that. He didn't want to admit it. But it turns out what Rich was doing was a new treatment, newer than Synthol anyways. It's called PMMA. PMMA is a plastic that's injected. It's like little plastic beads and injected right into the muscle, and it bonds permanently to the muscle fiber. So once it's in there, it adheres itself to the muscle fiber.
It's like filler.
And it's just there. It's like an implant. And the thing with PMMA is once it's in there, it can't come out.
Is that what a lot of these people are using that do like face fillers when they get their cheekbones amped up and Juvederm? Is that Juvederm?
Yeah, that's something, that's hyaluronic acid.
Okay.
That's just like a water thing. It's not.
I didn't know some people did PPMA in their face also, but I think I heard it's big in Brazil.
So there was a Brazilian talk show host. She actually did PMMA in her butt, and her body rejected the PMMA. And so basically it was killing her. So they had to remove it. In order to remove it, they had to surgically remove all the muscle that it attached to. So she literally, I saw a picture, they removed half of her glute and half of her hamstring on one side. And she was in the hospital for over a year and almost died. It's like you can't take it out. So once it's in there, it's stuck. And I'm pretty positive that Illia Golem was doing the same thing.
This PMMA.
PMMA. And the reason I say that is because the PMMA is a little bit different look than the Synthol because it's just permanent. So Synthol, you have to keep putting it in, This stuff, you put it in once and it's just there. And I don't think you can put as much Synthol as PMMA can make you that big, where they're getting like 25-inch arms. But if you think about this, even with Synthol, you're putting something in your body, in the muscle, where normally blood flows through there and provides nutrients, to the muscles itself and throughout your body. Now you're putting this stuff in there like cement, which is plastic, and no blood flow can get through there. So what do you think this is doing to your whole system? having this stuff all in, and we're not talking a little bit. I mean, massive amounts, enough to make a 25-inch arm and huge shoulders. And
yeah, that's
I
like,
mean, Rich started with the arms and the shoulders, then he did it in the chest, and then it was the back, and it was go everywhere.
I mean, that's probably like 1,000 cc's per muscle group. I mean, like, you think of a breast implant, it's 1,000 cc's. That's like a double D. I mean, that's like the size of his bicep and his shoulder. So there's probably 800 to 1,000 cc's in each of those.
And
Maybe not quite
what I
that
think
much,
people
but-
don't realize is this stuff kills you. And most of these people die of heart attack, but why? Because you have not only your heart trying to pump blood to your muscle and the rest of your body, but it's trying to push blood through this stuff, and it can't go through.
Here's a picture of Rich. Looks like before he started using the site enhancement stuff. And then, like, just look at his arm.
Before.
Yeah, I mean, he was big, but he just like he got to that crazy, like,
Freak.
yeah, this freak status like this.
If you look at the last competition that he did,
Mhm.
he looked horrible. He actually called me the night before the competition and said he was at a smorgasbord, all you can eat. And I'm like, why are you there the night before? And he just hung up on me. He was a mental case.
Let me break in a little bit about my thoughts on it. So with Nasser, if he was just using the painless pumps and stuff, and if that stuff doesn't have synthetic oil, and if it's just like an MCT oil with electrolytes and lidocaine, then what I think he was having the issue with is getting infections, and then the infections were causing him, like you said, he had a ton of scar tissue, but then also the scar tissue, would get an infection, and then you have multiple infections around your body, and then you got to take, maybe drain it, maybe take, pretty strong antibiotics, which, antibiotics can result in rhabdo, which is rapid muscle breakdown, and rhabdo destroys your kidneys. So this all kind of comes back to kidney failure because of injecting this stuff. That's the real killer. The main killer for all this stuff is going to be kidney failure. You can't live without your kidneys. Your kidneys and your heart are all kind of one symbiotic system, and if you destroy your kidneys, you got to be on dialysis, or you're just dead. So that's just what I wanted to say about Nasser, but then also about Rich. Probably Rich, I think, died because of his lifestyle. I don't necessarily. He may have been getting sick because he looked like crap. Like 2 years of his life, he was really gaunt in the face. But he may have been getting sick from these kind of infections. And then that's what I heard with Illia Golem, was that he was having continuous infections. He was actually downsizing from 347 pounds. I think he was down 50 pounds, but he still had these like constant infections that he was taking antibiotics for, and then having this issue.
Well, I'll tell you something about Golem, and I don't know why you can't see this in the pictures. I don't know if they Photoshop it, or it's just you're out so far you can't see it. But I saw him at Expo walking around in person, and his arms had these knots on them, looked like just like big welts all over his shoulders and arms. I don't know if that was a PMMA or Synthol or a combination of all, but it didn't look right. It looked infected. Like his whole arm was inflamed, and he had big knots all over it. You could see it.
He almost looked like Rich and him, not so much Nasser, but Rich and him looked like plastic. Like it looked like they had like a certain look that looked like their skin was fake. Like it was.
Well, look at the shape of the bicep. You see how it's square?
Yeah, it's square at the top.
It's square. That's just plastic stuck in there. And see, if you look at Rich, the pictures with the arms extended, it's still the same shape.
Yeah, like I pulled up a picture before of Rich on a motorcycle, and that's when I really noticed it. That it was like really strange, because when he had his arms up, they just looked like bricks on his arms. They just looked really square. They didn't have that like tricep and bicep like flow to them. They just look like bricks on his arms.
Yeah, like he had a like squared bicep at the bottom.
Let's talk about the other kind
Real quick.
of. Sorry, go ahead.
I think there's one thing, and I hate to bring up his name, but he was my first coach, and he had the same look no matter what he did. Was Matt Porter, and I remember going to his house, and I remember his biceps literally were like balls. No matter if he was at the gym or not, they looked pumped all the time. And I think all three of those guys, I don't think Rich Piana died of a pulmonary embolism.
Yeah.
But I think he died of AFib with his heart attack because he was snorting his pre-workout.
Yeah, that's
but
what I heard.
All three of those guys, what you're doing is you inject all those plastics, like Luke was saying, that stuff gets stuck into your bloodstream. And what happens is it can cause, it can clog your arteries. And I think it might have clogged one of his arteries, stripping off a piece that clogged up in his lungs, and he had a pulmonary embolism.
Yeah, actually, Milos talked about this. He was injecting synthol one time, and he injected straight into a vein, and it almost killed him. He talked about it, yeah, and it was just the oil, but it went right into a vein. It caused an embolism, and it almost killed him right on the spot.
Yeah, Milos was a big time synthol user, and he just had weak arms. He was trying to. I mean, look at his physique. His legs look crazy. His abs look crazy. Everything looked insane. But he didn't have the arms to really compete with those guys like Levrone and Sean Ray.
Did it was Flex Wheeler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, his shoulders and arms were so humongous.
Yeah,
and you couldn't see, like they were just like his shoulders were bigger than his head. And yeah, he had genetics and everything, but there was a lot of oil in there, for sure.
Larry, don't you think all the guys, and I hate to bring up like your era, but I think the guys in the '90s were blasting Escalin, Novotil, all those synthols all year round, and they were doing it towards the show too. But all that stuff that they were injecting now is kind of backfiring. It's kind of messing them up.
Well, so we started off with acetylene back in the late '80s, and acetylene was
tell people what that is.
Acetylene was a steroid, but it was a weak steroid. It didn't really have an anabolic effect, but for some reason, when you injected it, it caused an inflammation. It irritated the muscle. And the muscle would become inflamed, and so it wouldn't like typical inflammation in the muscle will bring a lot of water, but this nolotol and acetylene, it just inflames the muscle cells so that they just like get bigger. I know that they use nolotol. I'm not sure with escalin, but I know they use nolotol when they need to do heart surgery on infants. They'll inject it in there so that it can get big enough so they can like understand what they're doing. So bodybuilders found out about this. I've actually used nolotol one time before, and it just like pumps up your arms. Where I injected it, it had like looked like a big old vein coming out of my arm. So I actually used acetylene back in the late '80s, and even though Mike Menser told me it wouldn't work because he didn't believe in it. He said that the body's a open system and the blood flow has to go through, but it did work.
Yeah.
But you could put on, I would say, a 1/2 inch on your tricep and a 1/2 inch on your bicep,
which could be the difference on a win or loss. For sure.
But it was very temporary. When I say temporary, it only lasted for maybe 18 to 24 hours. So you literally have to do it like the night before a contest.
The day of, probably even almost.
Yeah. Like it literally, like you do it and the arm would get inflamed almost like you had a big pump, but inside, and then it would be gone. So that's how it started. And then from there, they graduated to the oil, which was the synthol.
SEO.
And synthol was the original name of the brand that the guy that made it, something Clark.
Chris Clark.
Yeah, he made the original. No, he made synthol before Pump and Pose was ever a thing.
Okay.
Let's touch on real quick. The new age thing now is to use hyaluronic acid. What's the brand name that does that?
It doesn't work.
Metaform.
Metaform.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah. I think that it works
I tried it.
It works some. I think that it definitely works some, but it's a temporary. But I've got inside knowledge that the guys over in Kuwait are ordering that stuff by the thousands. So I think that they're, and I think that might be an issue with how we're seeing some of these guys, Brandon Curry, not having really deep leg vein. I mean, cuts and Big Rammy. These guys that are over there, they're pumping up their legs. They're pumping up because they're not getting a separation in their rectus femoris, the medial head of their leg. So they're not getting that, they're not getting any striations, and they're not getting any separation. And what you said is it's like a constantly pump. It's like an over pumped muscle. So I think that those might be kind of like going hand in hand. Well,
the way hyaluronic acid supposedly works is that the molecule itself holds a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put it in, it literally fills the muscle up with more water, which is more sarcoplasm, more blood.
Yeah.
So it's just like having a massive pump. The reason I said it doesn't work, it'll work for
short term,
maybe a few hours until your body absorbs the stuff.
You just gotta keep doing it. Well, Sergio told me once that I think when he went to the Olympia, he said that there was a bunch of guys that were kind of off in a side room, and he's like, "What are they doing?" And he said they were just pumping up their muscles with Metaform. So that's kind of the inside.
Well, maybe I guess it would work if you did it right before walking on stage. Mm-hmm. When I say it doesn't work, it's not like Synthol where you put it in there, and Synthol eventually absorbs, but it's going to stay in there for a couple weeks at least
mm-hmm.
before it starts to absorb. This stuff is it absorbs in literally in hours.
It's I've actually used Metaform before. I have a few vials of it. I think I only did it maybe a couple times. I was just curious. We're always curious to experiment when something is kind of the hot things. So I think I still have 10 vials, and it's really weird. You load it up into a syringe, and when it injects, it just feels like it's lubricated. It just doesn't have any resistance. It just goes in there's nothing there. It's really strange
because it's mostly water.
I think it's thick though. It's real thick. Have you ever used it, Austin?
Oh
yeah.
I used it almost every show. I used it for one day out.
Okay, so that's what Larry was saying. It lasts a couple days. How long do you think it does last?
It lasts for about 18, maybe 12 hours. But
okay.
It definitely it'll inflame the muscle, and it definitely. You get a good look on it.
Did you ever
do it right?
Did you ever try Nolotol?
No, I never got my hands on that or Escalin or any of that stuff. So I did painless pumps for years.
I have probably 10 2cc amps of Nolotol.
So Nolotol is
it's 10 years old though. I might be afraid to use it now.
It's still good.
Nolotol is something they use to induce labor in animals.
Okay.
And it's a prostaglandin. And what it will do, besides inflaming the muscle, will make you sick to your stomach.
I didn't get that. I shot it deep. The person that told me to do a 3cc deep into the muscle belly. So I did it in my bicep. I did it in my tricep. And it made me I couldn't even keep my eyes open. I got exhausted. I took a nap for 3 hours. And then I went to the gym and I was like, all right, I'm going to see how this was probably 10 years ago, but I was gonna see how pumped my arms were. And so I couldn't even, they were so full feeling. I couldn't even do real reps. I could do half reps, when you're already pumped and then you try to do a curl. That's what it felt like. But I just from the initial, and then I think it was gone probably by the next morning. I did it in the afternoon one day, and then by the next morning it was just back to normal.
Well, when I said it doesn't work, what I mean is it'll work for a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do it the night before a show or right at the morning of a show, maybe you're going to see something. But with the Synthol, you can as you keep putting more and more in, it keeps accumulating.
It stacks. Okay. So it gets bigger.
So
and bigger.
it gets, over a period of weeks or months, it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
So
I've actually seen, you see this a lot. You see these guys with triangular muscles.
Yeah, shoulders. Hottie had real bad triangular shoulders when he was 212 before he got his, I think it was like the Toronto Pro and stuff like that before he crossed over to the Open. He had real bad triangle shoulders.
I remember I was competing at Micron Classic. This was early 2000s, and this I didn't even know about any. I knew about acetylene, but I didn't know about really any about thing about synthol or how it worked or anything. But this guy came backstage. He was a super heavyweight, and I remember thinking, "Wow, he's huge and he's shredded, but something is weird about this dude. His shoulders were like triangular."
Mm-hmm.
His biceps were triangular. His tricep was triangular. It's like muscles aren't triangular; they're round.
Well, that's probably about 10 years ago as well. Everyone shoots their medial delt because it's easy to reach, can hold a lot of oil, and I started noticing that I was getting some scar tissue. And when you see it on your shoulder, it looks weird because it's not kind of like a muscle inside your body. It's like the outline of your body. And then if there's like a little triangular thing kind of pushing up, then it just looks really weird. And I immediately was like, okay, I need to put my androgens somewhere else. And so I pretty much always counsel guys, don't shoot your shoulders, shoot other stuff, shoot your rear delts, shoot your glutes, shoot your lats, shoot whatever, but like stay away from that because it's actually kind of a small muscle group, and it gets scar tissue pretty fast. So that's one thing that I can say.
Yeah, I've
it messes up with the look too on stage. You don't have that when you do like a side chest. You don't have that striation that you would see off somebody that would have nods injecting it too.
Mm-hmm.
There was a power lifter I trained with. I want to say this was mid 2000s. He was 330 pounds, and he was injecting test propionate into his shoulder, and it got infected, and he just kept injecting it until his shoulder was blown up like a balloon. And he went to the hospital, and for whatever reason, they didn't want to drain it. They wanted to take it. They wanted him to go home.
So Hottie, I brought here. So this is a shot of Hottie. You can see that he kind of has this weird angle on his arm right there. He's brought it down in the last couple of years, but I actually saw this year it looked like it was back up again a little bit. Here's another shot of it. It just has like a strange little thing right here so that you guys know what we're talking about. It's just like when you just see it as a bodybuilder, you just know the shoulder isn't supposed to have that kind of shape.
Yeah.
You'll notice it too on guys on the lat. Right on the underneath the armpit on the lats, you'll see a lot of that lumping, that really inflamed look.
I mean, are you talking about Derek last year? I think he just has a big teres. I think that it just was how his tan was and it was sticking out. I don't think that that would be such an awkward shot to shoot if you're shooting into your armpit.
Inside the actual
yeah, I don't think that Derek is putting it right there. I think that just is how his body is shaped. Yeah, I think if you go back, if you go back, it may be smaller, but yeah, he was 212. He was, Mr. USA. He was like a smaller guy. And then that last year when he won the Olympia, he pushed and pushed and pushed, and his back got enormous. So I don't think that Derek is shooting his lats but this is what we got to do to look like this. So it's got to go somewhere. So to talk shit about oh, he put it this place or that place, that's that it's got to go somewhere. You can't drink it,
Right. Luke, what do you guys think? How many guys in the Olympia top 10 are using synthol or whatever, shooting Metaform or whatever it is?
So
do you think they're all using it?
It's hard for me to say because like I said, I've tried Metaform and I tried Nolotol, but I don't use it. The physique that you see on me is, I got my arms up to 21 inches without using those things. I do put my gear in my arms, but I don't think it creates an inflammation anymore. It did years ago for some reason, but I think maybe my body kind of got used to it. But I see that my arms are the same size as some of those guys. So I think that there's probably guys that do, And I think the guys that do, you wouldn't even know it. I think that if the guys that do it are such good art, it's an art form is what people have referred to it, and like you just do it where it's not noticeable. You're not inflating your arms to be where they look, you know, silly like Rich Piana. You're just giving a little bit of enhancement. You're not going over the top. So I think that probably, I don't know, 25-30%. I know a few guys do. I mean, I'm absolutely sure that Ramy does. I'm absolutely sure that Curry has. I'm absolutely sure that, you know, like a few of those guys have, but I think that probably at least half the guys probably don't. Like, I don't think Hunter Labrada uses any SEO. So, you know, that's just kind of,
I mean, you can only really shoot it in your arms, your shoulders, maybe your quads. If you want.
I think you can do your quads, get some outer sweep.
Yeah.
So,
but there's like, you can't put it in your chest too much or your lats or your back.
Yeah, you're not going to fill up like a whole muscle group.
No.
Do you know that guy? What's his name? He's a bodybuilder. His name's John something, and he has his traps just look.
Trap.
Oh yeah, yeah. They look.
What's his name?
John Anderson.
Yeah,
John Anderson. Let me see if I can pull him up.
And you know what? I was at a show, and
he's a big guy.
I was telling my
he's huge. He's a nice guy. I don't mean to talk shit, but he just looks ridiculous.
I was telling my ex-girlfriend he's got stuff shot into his traps.
Here we go.
She's like, maybe they're just big traps, and I'm like, no, nobody has traps that just look like that.
Look,
he's older too.
Yeah. All right. So that's kind of our explanation.
That's what Synthol looks like.
But what I wanted to say is, I was mentioning I had this power lifter. He was injecting just testosterone propionate into his shoulder, and it got infected, and the hospital refused to treat him. So I took him in the bathroom in my gym, sat him down in a chair, took an 18 gauge needle and a 5cc syringe, and I drained that thing. It took me about an hour. And I drained 130 cc's out of his delt.
Jesus, was it just like creamy looking?
It was like
pink.
It was like pink goop.
Yeah.
And I just kept pulling it out and squirting it into the toilet. And I'd screw the syringe back on and pull more out. And I swear I counted, it was 130 cc's.
Well, you know, we should talk about Greg Valentino, because he said he never did Synthol, but he said he was shooting 10 cc's, 20 cc's a day in his arms, and you know, obviously he has a shitload of oil in there. He said he never did Synthol, but you know, if you're putting enough gear in there, then that's the look it's gonna give you as well. And then Greg had that video where it's probably 25 years ago, where he was like videoing himself and he was draining it. Remember, and blood was running down his arms.
Exploded.
Yeah.
His arm exploded and the stuff started leaking out all over the place.
Yeah. I think he said he had like 28-inch arms.
There was, you know, in Brazil, these guys down there, this is really weird. They shoot motor oil into their arms.
Really?
Yeah, for real. These are the guys that looked really bizarre. Like they don't have any muscle at all from working out, and it's just oil. And I remember one of these guys, he died, and there's a YouTube video, yeah, like this. There's a YouTube video of the guy laying on the table when they're going to do the autopsy, and the surgeon, he takes a scalpel and he slices open his bicep, and you just see all this stuff just pour out, just this goop. So, Jesus. I mean, you think about it, whether it's plastic, oil, you're clogging up your body with stuff.
Yeah.
That blood can't flow through there.
Let's back up to your use on the Synthol. So you were injecting it, you ended up competing, you ended up being a light heavyweight, and you lost all your muscle, you over dieted. And then what happened to you after you stopped using it? How long did it take? Was it, to go back down? Did you have any like complications?
So during the prep, I don't know if my body was absorbing it as I was doing it. It just kept dissipating. Then I tried it again. I want to say it was 2014. because Boston suggested it to me to try it without dieting. And I actually got my arms up to 21 inches.
Jesus.
Doing sort of the similar protocol. I wasn't doing my shoulders, just biceps and triceps. But this is what I found out. You can't train heavy with the stuff in you, because what happened was they got up to 21 inches in about, I don't know, a month or month and a half. And they actually looked good for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's the issue.
Then the stuff started leaking out.
Fruit of the poison tree. Is that what they call it?
It started leaking. I'm like, what the hell? It's like under my skin. I could see the oil like under my skin.
Oh, getting lumpy?
It wasn't lumpy. It was just like a layer of oil.
Oh, okay.
Like just
was it like if you pushed on it, would it like indent like the oil, the skin, but the oil between the skin and the muscle would
you could see it. You could see the oil, like just like I know where my veins and striations and separation is, and you couldn't see that because the oil was just like, it just looked like a blob.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'm like, I don't like this shit, because I actually like to train with heavy weights, and I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
So then I stopped doing it. Well, here's what happens when you stop doing it. Imagine you take a balloon and you fill it full of water or whatever, and then you let all the water out. What do you have? You have a
saggy balloon.
Well, guess what? I had the saggy bicep
mm-hmm.
that was smaller and weaker than it was
mm-hmm.
before I ever did that shit.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing it, you can't train your arms. So you're actually losing the actual muscle because you can't train them. Not really.
Yeah. So you're just imagine what would happen if you were just going in, doing pump workouts with 20-pound weights, and then for 6 months you did that, and then what would happen? Your arms would just shrink up. You're not giving any kind of load to the body to maintain
they were
muscle.
Artificially expanded by the oil.
So you get saggy skin.
When the oil comes out, it's just like hanging in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was horrible, and I never did it again. Luckily, my arms came back to normal, from training after a few months. But initially I'm like, well, this sucks, because I don't want to inject. I know a guy, an older guy, that he probably had 21-inch arms, maybe even more. And he was like 5'4". And they were all triangular, but this guy he had so much oil in there. He was having to inject with like an 18-gauge needle, and he just kept trying to push more and more and more in.
Mm-hmm.
And they just looked weird. He had that whole triangular thing going on too.
Yeah.
On his biceps and triceps. They're all triangular.
Austin, do you have any horror stories you could share about messing around with some SEO?
I used it throughout my whole career. When I first started using it was with Matt Porter, and I remember his protocols were like 3cc, 3cc, 3cc in the bicep. But I think the problem is, and I think what happened, I used it every year, maybe like 3 months on, 3 months off. But I think after a while is what happens is if you use a 21 gauge, 1-inch needle, if you go too deep and you constantly are hitting in the muscle of like the tricep, you're going to hit a nerve, and that nerve's going to die out. And then once that nerve dies out, that look of that tricep or your bicep, you're not going to have the roundness. It's going to literally be flat. And I was using it for so long, I started losing a little bit of nerve, like to my triceps, and I felt like it was actually flattening out my biceps. And I remember, like, I forgot what coach I was with. I think it was Andrew Vu, and he's like, "Dude, you got to stop using that fucking hyaluronic acid. You're actually blocking the blood flow to your muscles. It's going to die out the nerve." And I think over time, I used it for like 4 or 5 years. I think the nerve just died out, and I don't notice it as bad, but there was some nerve damage. And I know some guys, some bodybuilders, top guys that had a lot of nerve damage from it. And you'll see it too. Like, I think Ian Bayer had some nerve damage in his triceps from using it over time.
Yeah.
And you don't want nerve damage to any of your muscles, because once that happens, it's a pain in the ass to get it back.
Yeah. Your body can re-heal from nerve damage, but it's probably never going to be the same. It's probably going to be a little bit degraded. So that's your biggest, like, so it's kind of one of those things you probably started to feel like it was almost a crutch where you needed it after you used it for 2-3 years, and then you're like, you were probably afraid to stop using it because you're like, well, am I going to be?
You get so big.
Yeah, am I going to be good enough without it? I don't want to have like dramatically downsized arms or something like that.
And I think, like you just said, with as far as using it, it becomes an obsession.
Mm-hmm.
So every day before I even left my house, I was like, oh man, I'm going to be training at Dragons or some gym in Las Vegas.
You want to look?
I got to put 3 cc's in my arm. I got to have bigger arms than the next guy. And that becomes a problem because you can't just leave your house and just go to the gym. It's like you're sitting in the bathroom for 30 minutes trying to fucking, get every spot that you can in your arm. But it's kind of like a terrible mindset, insecurity to have. And that will, I think, that if you start out with that in your career, you're really going to mess yourself up. I don't think it's worth it, to be honest.
Yeah. Like I said, I experimented with it, but I am of the like mindset, if I'm going to be putting something in my arms, it's going to have androgens in it. If I'm going to be doing an injection, it better have something that's going to upregulate protein synthesis so I can get some actual nutrients and actual growth out of it. Yeah, that was always, so I just never really screwed with it for that reason. But I got pretty lucky that I have, pretty round arms. I mean, it's kind of funny because I have long arms. My reach is actually like, was like my reach is like 6'1", but I'm only like a little over 5'9" tall. So I have like a really long reach. So it took me a long time to like fill out my arms, but now that they are filled out, they always kind of like have that like they stand up really, really nicely since I filled them out. So, and that's just a time thing, you just train arms, progressive overload and, do the right kind of stuff for a long time and just build them up.
So anyways, the moral of the story is it's just not a good idea. For one, it's temporary. Two, it can possibly kill you, if not make you sick. And three, it doesn't end up looking right in the end anyways.
Mm-hmm. Austin touched on something about the nerve, and I wanted to bring up something I remembered about Boston Lloyd. He was this Team 3cc guy. He always, same kind of thing. He had his own Synthol brand, I think called Team 3cc, and he one time shot 3cc's in his tricep, and I think he said he blew out of a nerve, or he hit a nerve and whatever, and then it caused his arm just blew up massive. He ended up getting all this. This was, I think, a few days later after it like came down. It was all scabbed up and scarred up, and I just wanted to touch on that. That's a possibility. Is what they blurred this out. That's a possibility as well. Is you can always hit a nerve when you're injecting. So don't do drugs, kids.
What do you think it matters too with the needle, like the size of the needle? Because I noticed when I talked to Dante Trudell, he told me that you never want to do an inch or more, because once you hit that nerve deep down, you want to hit kind of the surface on the. You want to use like a 25.5 gauge needle, like half an inch. He said those work perfect, but if you're using those long needles, those are more susceptible to hitting a nerve in the deep of the muscle.
Yeah, but the thing is with a synthol, you have to put it underneath the muscle. You can't put it
deeper.
You can't put it a half inch. It has to go underneath the muscle, so it pushes the muscle up.
Yeah, you don't want it on top because it'll leak out, like you said, faster.
It has to go an inch and a half deep in there.
So what you're talking, I'll talk about. So I do shoot my arms just as a way to mix up my muscle groups, because like my glutes are just freaking shredded. So I do bicep, I do my outer head of my tricep, my inner head of my tricep, and then I do, if somebody else shoots for me, I do rear delts, and then sometimes I do lats. So that's all my different muscle groups. And I'm a daily, I micro dose, so I shoot daily. So I do those, but then I only do I've gotten up to 1 cc before, but I don't like going that high. Usually I'll do a half cc in my bicep, or my biceps can handle a little bit more. They can handle like 1 cc each. The outer head of my tricep, I don't like to quite do that much. And then the inner head of my tricep, I just started shooting that, and I figured out a way. And that's kind of a bigger muscle. So you can shoot like up to a cc in there. But
yeah,
that's all I do. I stay like at that like dose of oil, so that I don't really like. I do notice that sometimes, because I like to shoot a specific spot, like I get where it gets some scar tissue built up, and it doesn't want to go in, and I have to like maybe use a longer needle. So the needle that I use is 25 gauge by 5/8 of an inch on a 3cc barrel. And I have used a 1 inch, but I kind of I just prefer those shorter ones. But like just what you were talking about, that's the size that I use. And then I use a inch on my glutes. It's funny because when I started bodybuilding, it was like long needles were all the craze. And the guy that taught me how to inject, he told me like, yeah, you need to do, I think he gave me 1.5 inches by 25 for my glutes. So like doing this like freaking harpoon length needle all the way in my glutes. But I've since shortened it to I only do 1 inch now.
Well, back in the day, we were told that it has to go deep into the muscle. So you have to use a 22 gauge 1.5 inch needle. That's just what everybody said. And what I found, initially I did everything in my glutes.
You're talking about for androgens?
Yeah, just regular anabolics. Everything was in my glutes. Until finally, after years of doing that, my glutes had so much scar tissue, it felt like I was sticking it through styrofoam. It was like going through bubble wrap.
When you put it in. Yeah.
I could hear that as the needle would go through, it was like hollow in there. It was like pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
And then I was injecting to like an empty space. And I actually had to
stop doing
it and get deep tissue work for like 4 years of deep tissue work in my glutes to dig that shit out. And now I don't touch my glutes anymore.
You know what? I had the same thing because I did my glutes kind of exclusively for a few years. And then I quit doing them for a few years. And then now I'm back able to do them again. So I don't know if that's just like my scar tissue kind of went down.
So for me now, it's literally 1/2 inch insulin needles. With 1 cc.
That's something I want to.
No more than 1 cc. Just
that's something I want to touch on too. Kind of a little bit aside. Have you heard about all this like kind of new research that people are saying you can do subcutaneous with oils now? And they say it's like a better. But I've considered it, but like I'm shooting, up to 2 cc's per day, and like, where am I going to, how many times am I going to move around? Like, am I going to do it to my stomach? I'm going to do like 3 different locations, have like a lumpy stomach from oil. So I think if you're doing TRT, it's probably maybe okay. Because if you're doing TRT, you're maybe doing up to like a 0.7 cc's a week.
I'll say it like this. Okay. I do 3 times a week, a 1 cc injection of 1/2 cc of tests and 1/2 cc of NPP 3 times a week. And I do it either in my rear delt or my triceps. That's where it goes. And I haven't had a problem with that really. But if I was to take, first of all, I don't have very much body fat. So if I try to pull out my skin on my stomach, like if I put a cc in there, it's just going to be this huge lump of oil. Like
that's what I'm afraid of as well.
I think if you're fat enough, if you've got a roll of fat, you could probably do it. But like I don't have enough fat anywhere. Matter of fact, for my Crohn's, I have to take a medication called Skyrizi, and I have to take it like every, I don't know, it's like 8 weeks. No, I think it's every 8 weeks. And it came with this injector pack, this auto injector thing. And it's this thick stuff, and you put on the auto injector, and it takes like 20 or 30 minutes to supposedly inject into you.
Oh shit.
So you're supposed to do it either on your abdomen or your thigh. What I found with myself, I don't have enough fat to do it. So what happened was, the auto injector was like pushing in till finally the stuff was starting to leak out. It wasn't getting in because I don't have enough fat to put straight in the thing. So what I have to do And I actually had a nurse that I was working with, an injector nurse from the company that makes the stuff. And I told her, look, this auto injector thing is just not working, and they don't make it any other way. So I have to take the thing that goes in the auto injector, and I take an insulin needle, and I draw it all out, and it has to be subcutaneous. So I have to do a subcutaneous 1 cc here, 1 cc here, and half cc. I put it like over here, and it is a lump, and this stuff is not oil. It's kind of almost like the consistency of that what is that hyaluronic acid stuff.
Oh, okay. It's kind of like a thin oil, or thin, like greasy, or like,
yeah, that kind of thing.
Lubricant, thin lubricant.
But I still have this freaking lump from putting a cc under my skin.
Yeah.
And
how long does the lump last?
Maybe a day.
Okay.
But the stuff is absorbed pretty fast. But I have to put it in, and also I have to take the needle, I have to put it in an angle because I don't have enough fat to like go straight in.
Yeah.
There's just not enough there. So I have to like go at an angle and push it in really, really slow so the stuff doesn't posh back out. So yeah, you could do a subcutaneous shot if you have enough fat and you're not putting too much in there. But like for myself, there's nowhere on my body. And for the Skyrizi, I was telling them, they're like, oh, do the subcutaneous somewhere. I'm like, they're like, put it here, there. I'm like, I don't have fat anywhere. I have striated glutes. I don't know what to tell you.
Austin, have you done any subcutaneous with oils? Yeah.
I don't even do my GH subcu ever.
Yeah, I don't either. I do everything intramuscular. I do peptides intramuscular. I do insulin intramuscular. Yep. I do growth hormone. Everything I do intramuscular.
Same here.
I've gotten in arguments with coaches telling me, "Oh, make sure you do it sub-Q," and I'm like, "I'm not doing it sub-Q. I'm doing it in my shoulders."
Yeah. I tried it a few times doing like HCG and growth, early in my early days, and I just did not like how it felt. Like I
don't like the look too with that bubble. Yeah. I got a permanent bubble from using Sterostems, and I used it in my lower part of my abs. And I could see it on stage with the NPC photos online, that little bubble, and that drove me nuts. So I prefer not ever to touch my stomach. And I know with the new guys that are doing the sub-Q injections, a lot of those guys are just using TRT, and they're just doing literally 0.1 ml or something very tiny daily injections. So they're not using, 500, 600, 700, 800 gram gear.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'll tell you something. With the insulin, there's actually a condition, and this is a real thing, that if you inject the insulin into the fat, it will make the fat grow right where you do the injection. And I learned this the hard way because I was like putting insulin like here, and all of a sudden, like
the love handle,
I never had fat there. And all of a sudden I had these like lumps, and it took a long time for it to go away. It like grew fat right there. So even insulin, it goes straight in the muscle.
Yeah. You ever shot insulin IV?
No, but I've shot GH IV because I had a doctor that told me it was a good idea. And now I'm going to tell you why it's not a good idea.
Okay.
It's not the GH, but from sticking needles in your veins, you end up having like track marks. It looks like, and because you're messing up your veins by just sticking, even though it's an insulin needle, just sticking, and it's totally sterile and everything.
If you're doing it enough. It's
just you keep sticking it all the time, and then you end up collapsing your veins.
So IV is going to be the fastest, because the whole point of using pretty much any drug is to get it into your bloodstream. So IV is going to be obviously direct. I know that they do. I know that they've done insulin. I've heard of it, like they put it in like a drip, and they'll like give it to somebody, like if they don't want to inject them for some reason. Subcutaneous, it dissipates through, I think, is it through the lymphatic system or something? And then it goes, and then it goes into the bloodstream from the fat. I think there's like a layer. There's just not as much blood circulation in the subcutaneous layer of fat. And then there's intramuscular, which your muscles are always, circulating blood as well. So then if you're putting it in the muscle, then it's getting It's like a slower method, and then probably the slowest method of getting something in your bloodstream would be to eat it, and then you end up going through your digestive system, and it goes through your intestines, and then it transfers through your intestinal wall into your bloodstream. There's also intranasal, subcutaneous.
Wasn't there a trend where you could drop it, like a trend dropper?
Chick drops.
Check.
You put it on your
sublingual
tongue.
Yeah. So there's also, you know, a nasal inhalers, and then there's sublingual, and then, I mean, if you're really crazy, you can put it up your asshole. It's a suppository.
So everything he said was true, but let me give you
some things you can't, because oil, obviously you can't eat oil. Steroids have to be C17 alpha alkylated to not get broken down by your stomach acid. Most of them. Yeah. You can't eat testosterone oil and get it. You have to inject it.
Right.
And some of those things they won't get absorbed. So, but a lot of them will.
So answer your question on the IV. Yeah, IV is the fastest way to get it into your system, but the difference between getting something into your bloodstream IV versus an intramuscular shot, when you're talking about something like GH or insulin, you might be talking about like a few seconds.
No. Insulin IV is like your blood sugar will drop 25 points in 5 minutes. insulin in your versus intramuscular, it'll drop 25 points in like an hour.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so Humalog is supposed to have a 15-minute onset where it starts kind of noticing a drop after about 15 minutes. And then it's supposed to have a last for up to 2 hours. I think that you notice your biggest drop after probably 35 minutes is when you will actually notice like a substantial change. But IV is like, it's minutes. It's quick. Ask me how I know. Would not recommend, because it's also like exponentially stronger than just doing like 5 units in your muscle or 5 units in your vein. Is like it's a hugely different dose. Like it's like it kicks in immediately, where like its full potential kicks in immediately, where if you do it in intramuscular, its full potential kicks in over like an hour.
But it also has to do with the type of insulin, and this is something I learned the hard way, mistakenly. You cannot mix a fast-acting insulin with a long-acting insulin in the same injection.
You can?
You cannot.
I didn't know that.
Because what happens is, whatever is in that fast-acting insulin that makes it kick in right away, it causes that long-acting insulin to do it too. So I would be doing the same dosage of long and fast acting, but one day I decided just to, after a workout,
put them together,
put it in one shot. I went hypo in like 5 minutes, and I mean bad, bad. I was in a Trader Joe's with my girlfriend, and I just started pouring sweat, and I just like literally started just eating everything in the store, in the aisles. I'm standing in the aisles, just like packages. Eating shit.
Where's those oatmeal glazed dunkers? I'll just eat those by the freaking tub.
I'm like, there was a food stand with like cooked food, and I'm just like stuffing my face in the store.
Can you imagine this just like enormous guy that's in the middle of the store just opening packages?
People like looking at me like, what, what's wrong? And my girlfriend, and I'm like, and I went from there to the aisle, and I started eating rice cakes, and I kept going and going for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it was scary, because when your blood sugar is dropping, you go hypo. It's like, you feel like you're going to pass out.
Yeah. Let's shift a little bit. Let's talk about designing insulin, like an insulin protocol. Yeah. I mean, maybe some of the ones that we've ran, and kind of like how you run it. Obviously, let's preface this. Insulin is extremely dangerous. It is probably the only performance enhancing drug that can kill you immediately if you do it wrong. If you do too much, if you mix up your dose, you do it wrong. Like I said, if you do it in a vein, you do too much, it will kill you. It will drop your blood sugar too low. You will go into shock and you will die. So this is a very advanced subject that we're going to talk about, and it's just like, take it at its face value that this is just for entertainment. So, all right. I want to get that precaution to the side.
So I have extensive use of insulin. I started off with the regular Humulin R.
That's all they had back in the days when you started, right?
Well, that's just what you could get easily over. You know, you can just go buy it in a Walmart.
Well, I think in the 90s, the mid 90s, they didn't even have Humalog, and I think they came out with Lantus probably only in the last like 10 years. So when did you start? Like probably in 2000?
Yeah, 2000.
Okay, so Novolog was the easier one to get.
Yeah, so you could just
Novolin R.
Humulin R, Humulin N, you could just go buy it in the Walmart.
So for these people at home, this is a mid-acting. It kicks in, what does it kick in like
4 hours?
It kicks in 4 hours and it lasts up to 8. It has two spikes.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, when we talk about Humalog, it kicks in 15 minutes and it lasts up to 2 hours. And then when we talk about Lantus, that's a 24-hour.
It's actually about 12 hours, really.
Okay. Well, I think that so another thing to note is different metabolisms are going to have a different active life on the this drug. So like if these numbers that I gave are for diabetic patients. If you're a bodybuilder with healthy bodybuilder with a fast metabolism, you're probably going to metabolize it a lot faster. Sorry, go on about your protocol.
So anyways, I started with the Humulin R, and I would just do it like post-workout. And the thing with that, I would do it right after training. I do it post-workout, and basically it works as long as you keep eating. But the thing is, you have to keep eating like for 6 hours.
To keep your blood sugar up.
Yeah, because it keeps peaking.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can't just eat one meal and then go away and maybe not eat again for several hours. So you have to, after training, eat, and then 2 hours later eat again, and 2 hours later make sure you eat again.
So it's not something you could do at night before you, like if you train in the evening, you can't be taking insulin post-workout.
Probably a bad idea. Probably a bad idea. So for me, that was what I had. So, and it worked, but it's very hard to control because like I said, you don't know when the peaks are going to hit, and you better be eating when that's going on or you're going to go hypo. And I can say I probably went hypo on that more than any other insulins.
It would just be like hours after you injected it. It was just kind of like hit you when it hit you.
Right. So now I used Humalog and it's like Lantus, but it's called Basiclar, which is the same thing as Lantus. It's just a generic Lantus. It's called Basiclar.
This is a long acting.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be 24 hours, but there's one called Trigio, which is actually 24 hours. This one is like really 12 hours.
And this is just kind of like a smooth
the thing with
over the day.
So here's what happened with me. GH raises your blood sugar. Okay. Over time. It's like, first of all, no, I should say, let me back up. It raises it immediately when you do it.
Look,
but over time, you'll become insulin resistant because your blood sugar will stay elevated.
Yeah. Let me dive in a little bit deeper on this. So when you inject growth hormone, it actually does an opposite pathway of insulin, and it will pull glucagon back out of your liver into your bloodstream. And so what happens with this is you have high blood sugars, and then if you do this often enough, you can become resistant to insulin, and it's similar to like a diabetic. So your blood sugar, your fasted blood sugars will be running 100 and 110, 120. And then to combat this, bodybuilders have used insulin to bring their blood sugar back down to stay more sensitive to insulin. So that's kind of just the way it works.
So you basically become a type 2 diabetic.
You can, yeah,
yes.
with you. But this from my what I've heard, this is kind of with higher GH use, like lower GH use, probably below 5 units. This isn't really an issue, but above, you get up to that between 5 and 10 units, it becomes a greater issue.
It's not true, because I did it to myself, and I've never done more than 3 units in a day, ever. But over time,
accumulates.
Over time, after doing it for years, I actually was starting to run high blood sugars from the GH. And I have a Crohn's, so I have a gauge that most people don't have. So most people might be running high blood sugars and not even know it. If my blood sugar gets high, my Crohn's flares up.
So you start shitting.
I have something called fistulas, which is like irritation in my butt. And when my blood sugar goes up, my fistulas flare up, and it's serious pain. Serious pain, like immediately, like you can't sleep. So because of the GH raised my blood sugar, and like I said, never taken more than 3 units in a day. So it's not true that you have to take a whole bunch. But I took it for years, like literally, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe more. And so what I had to do was I used the Lantus, and the reason the Lantus I started with, now it's a Basaglar, which is the same thing as a Lantus. It's a slow releasing insulin, so it just slowly keeps your blood sugar down. Now, people say you can't go hypo on it. You can. I've done it. If you take too much, you can go hypo still and not eat. But it's really hard to go hypo on it because let's say even if you did 30 units, it's 30 units over 12 hours and it's spread out over a 12. It peaks, it hits you pretty quick. I think probably in 15 minutes, but then it's like a slow release.
It just stays.
So as long as you're eating, meals, you're probably not going to go hypo on it, but it will keep your blood sugar within range. And what it did for me is it lowered my A1C because my A1C was getting high for the first time ever. And I know it was from the GH.
So let me touch on A1C a little bit. So the A1C is a measure of the amount of sugar that's sticking to your hemoglobin. It's hemoglobin A1C. And so the more elevated that your blood sugars are, the more the higher that your A1C is. And it's a measure over like 3 months because those hemoglobin cells stay alive for 3 months. So that's kind of what A1C is. So what Larry is talking about is he used this and he kept his blood sugar lower artificially. So he lowered his A1C because of this. So
anyways, there's 2 ways I use the insulin. One is I use the Basaglar, which is the long-acting insulin. And initially when I did it, I started with Lantus and I was doing 30 units at a time. And that worked for a while, but what I found was, when you take insulin, it speeds up your digestion. So for me, if I took a 30-unit shot of Lantus or Basaglar, I'm going to the toilet. Like everything that's in my digestive system, I'm going to the toilet for like 2 or 3 hours. It's coming out of me. So what I had to figure out, first of all, I got to the point where it was taking that much at a time was making my A1C actually too low. And that's from blood work. It was getting too low. And it was also, like I said, it was just causing flare-ups when I would take it. So now what I've been doing is I take 10 units in the morning and 10 units in the evening of the long-acting. And this allows me to digest my food well. I don't get any flare-ups and my blood sugar is not getting too low. So that's kind of, and it's sort of just, I had to experiment with it, moving around the dosages and things.
So would you call this protocol is more of just like a health based instead of a growth based?
Yeah, I'm not trying to grow from it. Okay. Actually, to be honest with you, the reason I do it is because it really does help my Crohn's because,
high blood sugars affect you.
Yeah. If I eat a bunch of carbs without it, I'm just going to be shitting my brains out. So this literally helps my Crohn's and helps keep my blood sugars normal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not trying to grow from using it. I know people have done like 100 units of Lantus in a day, crazy things like this. He must eat an awful lot of food to, fill that up.
So let me get into the way that I do insulin. I use it to grow and it actually can help you get leaner. And the method that I use is, Phil gave me this. I'm not going to stand on his shoulders and call myself tall, but, he has me check my blood sugar you know, he wants me to eat my meal when my blood sugar is at 80. Your body is in like the most prime ability to uptake nutrients and absorb and shuttle nutrients when your blood sugar is a little bit lower in that 80 range. So if I am coming into a meal and say I haven't fully digested, there's still some circulating blood sugar in my system. Say I'm at like 100 and say I'm like at 100, 102. So then I will take, you know, if I'm below 100, if I'm say at like 95, I'll just take 1 to 2 units. If I'm above 100, I'll take 5 units. And if I'm above 110, I'll take 10 units. And then I wait 15 minutes, check my blood sugar. My blood sugar gets down to 82. I start eating my meal. So this is kind of the responsible way to use insulin, is to do it through trying to get your body into the peak prime ability to uptake the nutrients. The wrong way to kind of do insulin is to just shoot a bunch of it so you can eat more food. It does help you shuttle more nutrients. It's going to help you get there, but just taking a lot of it is going to be the wrong way. And if you're eating the wrong kinds of foods, if you're eating like, say, too many fats, you're going to shuttle those to fat stores and you're going to get fat. So you don't want to be just taking insulin and going and grabbing a double and a shake. You will put on a shitload of size, but you're going to get fat quick and you're going to fuck up your insulin sensitivity pretty quick. So I guess that's just pretty much my outline. What's your style of doing?
So I'm going to give you the Austin, I know the secret.
The secret.
There is a secret.
I gave you, Larry. Didn't I give you a protocol a couple years ago?
Boston gave it to me, and then you and I discussed it.
I think he gave that to me, and then I think I shared it with you.
Yeah.
That was a good one. What was that?
So I'll tell you what it is exactly. I take growth hormone 2 times. One is pre-workout, and one is in the middle of the night. Because of my Crohn's, I cannot. Growth hormone raises your blood sugar. I can't go over 2 units. If I go over 2 units, my blood sugar goes too high. I'll be shitting my brains out right away. However, what I'll do is I'll pre-workout. I'll do 2 units of GH with 5 units of Humalog pre-workout, and then immediately as I start training, I'm sipping on intra-workout, which is aminos with highly branched dextrins. And what's happening is the GH in that insulin is balancing out my blood sugar, and it's causing all those aminos and carbs to go into the muscle as I'm training. And I just slowly sip this shake, and it's probably got 60 grams of carbs and, aminos in there. And I also put a scoop of collagen peptides in there as well. Mm-hmm. And I have electrolytes in there from the intra-workout stuff as well. And I just sip that during my training session. And if you do that, like when I say pre-workout, I mean like right before you're going to train, not 20 minutes before, not an hour before, like right before. Like you take that and you're ready to go work out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like my little ritual.
You said it's 2 units of growth, 5 units of insulin?
2 units of growth, 5 units of Humalog. Now, let me say something to you. Because I can do 5 units, that doesn't mean you can do 5 units or somebody else. You might be more insulin sensitive than I am. Mm-hmm. So for you, 2 units might do the trick, and 5 units might make you go hypo. So what you got to do is start with like a 1 unit and see how that works, and then 2 units and see how that works. Mm-hmm. And 3 units, if you're starting to get hypo, then you went overboard. Mm-hmm. I know for myself, I can do 5 units with 2 units of GH, and then I'm training. And so instead of my blood sugars going up because I'm training, I'm absorbing these carbs and using them for fuel during the training session. And they're storing as glycogen in my muscle during the training session because I'm training. And my training sessions usually last about 2 hours. So, I'm training high intensity for 2 hours long,
Yeah.
with this going, and you just have like an amazing energy.
So,
and I don't even take stimulants, like any kind of stimulant.
If anyone's going to be kind of, do this protocol, make sure you have food on hand. Make sure you have your post-workout meal with you. Make sure you have this intra shake on hand, and also make sure you ate your pre-workout meal that has proteins, fats, and some protein, carbs, and some fats, because you're going to need a little bit of fats, probably 10 to 15 grams of fats in your pre-workout meal to slow this down. If you just eat chicken and rice, or if you just eat egg whites and cream of rice, or protein and egg and cream of rice, that's going to shoot through you so fast. And if you do insulin pre-workout, you could have a blood sugar crash and
go hypo in the middle of your training session.
You could go hypo. It's not an emergency if you got carbs on hand. If you got a bunch of, if you got enough food on hand, I would probably have 200 grams of carbs, quick carbs. They sell glucose tabs. You can have whatever, just as an emergency to have on hand. And then don't get done after your workout and then be spending another hour at the gym. You need to go get your post-workout meal in as well after this. So do you take a post-workout insulin as well?
Let me finish. So I'll do my pre-workout meal 1 hour before I'm training. It's usually chicken and rice. That's just easiest to digest for me. I do chicken and rice 1 hour before training. And then when I do the pre-workout with the GH and the insulin, and I might as well tell you, I throw in the BPC 157 and TB 500 and my HCG. I do it all in the same thing.
Same needle?
Yep, because I don't want to stick myself more than I need to. So I just stick it all in one needle, and along with my vitamin B complex. And it's like half cc right into the shoulder. Okay. All done. So that's pre-workout. Then I train for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, depending on, which training session I'm doing. Post-workout, I'm literally finishing sipping that shake as I'm doing my last set. There's still a little bit in the shaker cup. So I'm still having some food, some carbs and aminos, these quick digesting branch cyclic digesters going into me. So then post-workout, I do 15 units of Humalog, and immediately I drink a shake with whey isolate, 1 scoop of whey isolate, 1 scoop of collagen peptides, and I mix it with rice milk and I have a big shaker cup. And I do that and 4 rice cakes. And this is like, when I say immediately, I'm saying like, I finish my workout, I finish that shake, then I make my shake with the rice milk and the protein.
You brought it to the gym with you. You're not saying.
Oh, I already have. I have a refrigerator at my gym because I own the gym, so my refrigerator, everything's right there. So I have that right on hand. And usually, like post workout, I want to leave, so I'll make that shake. I'll walk up, get in my car, and on the drive home, which is about 10 minutes. I'm drinking the shake and I'm eating 4 rice cakes. I get home, and as soon as I get home, I just drank that big shake and ate the 4 rice cakes. Immediately I get in the shower because I can't stand being just nasty. Take a shower, and that takes maybe 15, 20 minutes. And now I'm having my meal. So I'm having my meal within 40 minutes of finishing training. So I had the shake with the rice cakes, and I had that 15 units of insulin. Now I'm having my meal, and that is usually my biggest meal of the day because I'm starving because I just trained, and the growth hormone is making you hungry, and the whole thing is just making you hungry, and that's when I can eat like the most food.
Yeah.
And I will just sit there and eat for an hour. Like I'll just sit and eat and, watch YouTube video or whatever and just sit there and eat.
Just eat.
And it's usually chicken and rice or beef and rice with some pineapple on the side.
I'm curious what's your insulin protocol, Austin?
So, I mean, I I was taking insulin a lot in my younger career, but as I got, I don't know, as I got older or more, I guess, bigger, I guess I didn't need as much as I did when I was younger. But so a typical every day is wake up, I'll take not only 2 to 3 I use of my growth hormone fasted, then I'll do fasted cardio. Now the meals, I like to get 3 meals in before I train, just because, you know, I'm over 250 pounds. I think I just need a little bit more nutrients and a little bit more in my gut to train. I can't train off 1 or 2 meals. So the first 3 meals, I will try to do a little bit less carbs in the first 2 meals, kind of more fat. For some reason, when I take down the carbs a little bit, I'm a little bit more insulin sensitive. So for the pre-workout meal, I'll always have at least 100 grams of carbs, and I'll do another shot of growth hormone, preferably 2 to 3 units. And I kind of do what Larry did. I like to take the growth hormone, and sounds weird, but an hour, like the pre-workout meal, I'll take it with the growth hormone about an hour. And then right before my training, I'll do 5 to 7 units of Humalog pre-workout, like right before I'm walking in the gym, so 15 minutes before. And then right as I'm starting to train, I'm drinking, you know, 15 EAAs, 40 to 60 grams of dextrose, so high HBCD, highly branched citric dextrin. And then post-workout, I usually don't take any more insulin because I'm so hypo and I'm just starving as it is.
Yeah.
My body's already going to respond to eating those carbs. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. And then before I go to bed, I might do 2 to 3 IUs more growth hormone, and that's it. So I'm not using insulin throughout the day multiple times. One time pre-workout, and then sometimes if I'm in prep, I'll do it post-workout just to fill up a little bit. If I'm flat, then I'll have like a huge carb meal, but 5 to 7 units for Humalog. I've done it all. I mean, I've done Lantus with, you know, coaches, 100 IUs in the morning, and then start Humalog pre-workout, doing different types of insulin, stacking it. But honestly, it doesn't do not much for my body. If I just have a good growth hormone source and a little bit of insulin, that's all I need. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's independent basis or individual basis. If you respond well to insulin, for me, I'm half Asian. I don't know, maybe my body just doesn't store it like some white guys do, but I usually get fat off insulin really fast.
Yeah.
So I have to be very careful in the off-season.
You have to be really careful with your diet. Yeah.
Absolutely. I can't eat any cheat meals on insulin days. If I'm using it to bring up a body part, I have to eat clean meals, no fat, very low fat. And if I throw in a cheat meal in there, I blow up like a fish. It looks terrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just my protocol for me.
I personally don't use it pre-workout. I mean, I may go through periods of time where I do. We should also preface this. I only use insulin like short bursts, like maybe 3 to 4 weeks, and then I'll take 4 to 6 weeks off of it, and then I'll use it again for 3 to 4 weeks. This is how I use it to grow. Larry sounds like he's using it kind of ongoing because he's at the age now where he wants to keep his blood sugars in a normal range. I'm pretty insulin sensitive, so my body keeps me in anyways, but you can actually become desensitized to it if you use too much insulin. You're starting to push your calories too much, and you can start to get fat, and then it can also stop working at that dose where you have to start using more. So instead of using more, I just take time off of it to, you know, get sensitive again. And then some ways to just get sensitive again is to go on a little mini cut, get leaner, do your cardio, you know, you can become more insulin sensitive, and then you can kind of make another push on push for size.
Oh, one other thing I wanted to say. So number one, I only use GH on training days, 4 days a week. And there's actually been studies that were done on the short stature kids mm-hmm. that showed different protocols of using GH, and it found to be more effective over time doing it 3 to 4 times a week versus doing it every day. because your body just builds up antibodies to it and it becomes desensitized to it. So I only do it on training days. And on those training days, like I said, I do 2 units post-workout. And then I do 1 unit in the middle of the night, not before bed, because I usually eat like right before I go to bed. And then I'll get up, like whenever I get up to go to the restroom, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll take 1 unit of GH with no insulin. And I can't take any carbs when I take that GH, because if I take any carbs with it, I'll immediately have a flare up and I'll be straight to the restroom.
Get a high blood sugar.
Yeah. No, I have a Crohn's flare up.
Yeah, no, your blood sugar gets high because the insulin pulls blood sugar out, and you eat. And if you're eating also,
the GH is raising.
I know you used to have a nighttime snack that you would drink through the night, but you quit.
No. I do eat in the night, but not
when you do the growth.
No, I'll do the growth hormone at like probably 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I wake up like 2 hours later starving, and that meal is no carbs. It's
fats and protein.
It's fat and protein, and what I use is this keto cereal with almond milk and chocolate collagen peptides, and I'll eat a bowl of this in the middle of the night. It's just pea protein with collagen peptides and almond milk, so there's no carbs in it at all. But if I eat any carbs after taking the GH, I'll be straight to the toilet.
Yeah, I actually do my growth differently than you guys. I do all of it before bed. Yeah, I do all of it before bed, and Phil actually doesn't like me to do it this way, but I feel the best. I feel like growth hormone, if you got real growth, you're going to know this, because you get lethargic as fuck on growth hormone. Like you feel like, if these people that do it first thing in the morning, because I've tried that when I was in college, I would get to like my midday class and I would like, man, I got to take a nap. Like I'm like exhausted. So then I started noticing a pattern with this, and I just do it all before bed. One, I don't really like waking up in the middle of the night to specifically go do something. I mean, I could, maybe I'll experiment with it, but growth hormone makes me so tired. I just do, my 5 units before bed. I'm doing 5 units right now. My 5 units before bed. It makes me like, it almost is like a sedative, and it makes me like calmer. It makes me lethargic. And then I just go to bed, and I feel like my sleep on it is just like,
you get the deepest sleep.
I get just like the deepest sleep on it with that protocol. Growth hormone, I think it peaks over like 3 hours, but I've seen where it lasts up to 10 hours. It's like elevated your levels for up to 10 hours. So I think that, kind of whatever you figure out works best for you. And it sounds like you guys got a really good pre-intra workout like protocol that you do.
Well, I'll tell you what's recently screwed me up was I'll do my GH at 3 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, I'm going to sleep probably like 1 o'clock, usually midnight or 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then 3 o'clock I wake up to use the restroom, and I just do the GH.
And
I do my thyroid at the same time, actually.
Okay.
Because
I've heard that thyroid can make you like, can give you energy. Like they don't tell like people that they prescribe like T4 to, they tell them not to use it in the afternoon.
Yeah, well,
because it can keep them awake.
You also have to use it on an empty stomach, and when the hell ever do I have an empty stomach?
Yeah.
First thing in the morning.
It's better to take it with no food.
Yeah, so that's why I take it at 3 o'clock in the morning with the GH. Because the first thing in the morning I get up, I'm starving. I want to.
I kind of have a little bit of a gripe with people that say that you're just not supposed to take it with food, because yes, your natural production of growth hormone gets blunted when you eat carbs, specifically because it shoots up your blood sugar, and that cortisol blunts your growth hormone release. But if you're taking exogenous growth hormone, that's like taking exogenous testosterone and saying that like it's not working because like you jerked off or something. No, like it's working because you put that drug in your system. So it's got whatever active life that drug has is going to be in your system. So I kind of have like the scientific thought process behind, growth hormone doesn't work. So I mean, maybe the thought of
no, you're confusing two things. It'll work as far as growth goes with taking food. You just won't burn any fat with it.
Oh, okay.
So the reason people take it with fasted cardio is because they're trying to burn fat.
I just take it to grow.
Right. But if
I'm just trying to get fucking huge.
If you're trying to lose fat, then if you take it first thing in the morning and you go do fasted cardio, you'll burn more fat. Versus if you take it and you eat, then you have an insulin release and it's not going to burn fat because you got insulin floating around in your system.
No, yeah, that makes sense. That makes more sense then.
Hey, Larry, you said you do your thyroid with your growth. I remember when I worked with a couple coaches, they always had to do T4 with high amounts of growth hormone.
Yeah,
there's a correlation.
There's definitely a correlation. The T4 works in conjunction with the growth hormone, and somehow the growth hormone has an effect on the T4 to the conversion of T3. And then this process is important for metabolism and growth.
Your body, you could actually see it on blood labs. If you take growth hormone, your T4 will be lower. So that's where they figured out about to supplement with T4 to do that. And then actually taking T4 is another growth pathway. I would say there's several growth pathways. There's androgens, there's insulin, there's growth hormone, and then a fourth one would be T4. And what that does is it increases protein turnover. So you're actually just turning over more protein as like an extra pathway. And they're all through like different methods. So, you know, it's like adding another synergistic method to your ability.
Yeah, but it does work in conjunction with the growth hormone.
How much T4 would you recommend somebody start out with?
So
this is a good amount of growth.
This is very highly individual, and it depends on like you. And like when I started taking, I started with Armor Thyroid way back when, which is 1 part T3, 3 parts T4. But then I went through a period of time, actually when I was at TI, for whatever reason, the doctor there was trying to figure out my optimal dosage because they had me on, I think it was like 180 micrograms of T4. And he wanted to figure out my optimal dosage of T4. So he literally had me doing blood work every single week. Like every week I'd go get my blood drawn, get my testosterone shot and whatever medications. And he did this for a year. And they figured out at 175 milligrams of T4, put me at the optimal level of my TSH, my T3, T4 were at optimal levels with 175 micrograms of T4.
Interesting.
Now that's me. That might be different than other people.
I haven't done blood labs with it, but I do 50 micrograms per day. Daily, yeah. When I'm doing growth.
Do you feel a difference in your energy levels, or do you feel it all like
I do it
you're
first?
More fat?
I do it first thing in the morning, and honestly, I haven't noticed a difference. I just know that it's supposed to give you more protein turnover. So, but I don't feel any different, better or worse. Just I can't even tell I took it.
So one thing, anabolic steroids will lower your output of thyroid right off the top of T4.
Do they?
Yeah,
I know the growth hormone does, but I don't know if androgens do.
Androgens lower your T4 production. So that's why usually people that have been taking androgens for a period of time will eventually end up needing to supplement with some kind of thyroid.
Okay.
I can't take T3 because
you probably just waste away.
No, for me, T3 is like crack.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm like this.
Your metabolism's
it's just too fast,
shooting crazy.
Yeah, it's just too crazy. Like even a little bit. A couple times I've tried it. I feel like I'm gonna go hypo and I'm all shaky and low blood sugars, and it's just not a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, we're coming up on hour and 40. Do you got anything else you want to touch on?
I think we could do the cycle design the next time.
Yeah.
Talk about.
Yeah, this one
designing something.
Yeah, this was pretty good. So yeah, tune in next time, guys, and we'll talk about how we design androgens for a cycle. I think this is a pretty cool deep dive on insulin and growth hormone that of what, you know, pros, you know, we actually do, what the protocol is and what the dosages are and stuff like that. So this is some pretty cool information. So
now one thing I just want to caution you guys about, you young kids listening to this or whoever, new people, we've been doing this for many years and figured out like dosages and things. And all of us has gone hypo multiple times and fucked up.
yeah.
Do not try to do what we do right off the top.
I got a story actually.
Because you might end up like me in the store eating everything on the shelf.
I got a story. So this is a common thing. You've heard this through a lot of bodybuilders. So when you get generic growth hormones, a lot of times, and serostim, they come and on an insulin pin, you will mix 1 cc of water with 10 units. So then each 10 units on an insulin syringe is 1 IU of growth hormone. This is really easy to fuck up if you are doing this for a long time and then you decide, oh, I'm going to add insulin in, and you do insulin and you're like, oh, I'm going to do 5 units, and you go to the 50 and you know, because they look the same. I mean, there's a little vial. You know, a lot of times you'll get like maybe the pen kind of insulin and the pen kind of growth hormone. That's how I mixed it up, is I just like grabbed the wrong one. I think I was doing 3 units. So I did 30 units of insulin. And this was when I was like I was probably doing like 3 to 4 units of insulin at the time. So I did like 10 times the dose, and I realized it immediately. And I literally just immediately started like shoveling food into my face just to try to get my blood sugar in front of the amount of blood sugar drop that I was going to do. So, and I did, I went hypo, started sweating. You know, I was panicking because this was like the first time I did it. You really only do that once. Have you ever done that, Larry?
No, but there was a trainer in my gym, stupid kid. He first started messing with insulin and he took too much. And the dude like lost his fucking mind. He was doing cartwheels in the gym and backflips and shit. And then he just passed out and they had to call the paramedics.
Holy shit. Have you ever screwed up like that, Austin?
No, because I've always heard horror stories about insulin, so I made sure I was never overdosing
grabbing the wrong one.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, aside from this, I haven't gone hypo in years, but the first couple times I used it, you know, you're just experimenting. You get Milos's insulin protocol, and you're like, okay, 1 unit is 10 grams of carbs, and that might not be right for you. So
hey, I'm going to tell you this. I went hypo on 10 units of Basicler.
Mm-hmm.
Not like recently. And that's my normal dose.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was I got up in the morning and I took it, and I was in a hurry to get to somewhere, and I just like ate something small. And then I ran to this appointment and ran to the next appointment. Yeah. And then I had to train somebody. And then
you didn't eat all day.
And I was like from one thing to the next. I wasn't eating anything. And then I'm training this girl. No, actually I trained myself. And after I trained,
you didn't eat.
I didn't eat. And I immediately went into training this girl, and I had food like literally with me.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was training her, I wasn't eating it.
Yeah.
And like, but by the time I got done training her, I sat down and started going over the cost of training, and I started going hypo right in front of her. I just like started pouring sweat.
You knew immediately.
And I'm just like, oh shit. I'm like, I'm sorry. I have to eat right now.
So the symptoms of low blood sugar, we probably are all familiar with it from just, you know, not eating throughout the day long enough. But from extreme low blood sugar, your blood sugar gets down to like below the 40s. You go into like a profuse sweat. Your brain is like, you feel like you're in just like vertigo. Like your mind is cloudy. You know, you start to have you can even start to have slurred speech. You can, what else? You know, you just get dizzy. You might fall down. You might start acting like crazy, like Larry was saying about that trainer. So, you know, if you start feeling that way, then you need to get a quick carb source into your body. You know, and I mean, I have done it where I've like panicked.
Well, honestly, I like in hindsight, for me at this point, that was just total stupid.
Yeah.
Like I should not have scheduled that appointment right after my training. I shouldn't have done it. I should have just not agreed to it at all.
So
have you guys ever got hypo after posing, like a really intense posing session?
Yeah.
Like, and you missed a meal and you were still posing?
I've gone hypo without insulin. Like if you go train like a really big muscle group and you train the hell out of it, like you train back and you do like, you know, you're deadlifting for heavy sets and you're doing your whole session and it's end up being a 2-hour session, or you do legs, ends up being a 2.5 hour session. I've come out of there when I've been driving home and I have gone into a cold sweat and I'm like, oh, okay, I got to eat. And then I've checked my blood sugar. The lowest I actually ever saw naturally without touching any insulin was 38. And I was like, holy shit. And then my buddy was with me. We were in the line at In-N-Out, and I was driving home when I start to feel it. And I was like, I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going low blood sugar. And he's like, what do I do? And I was like, I'll be fine. Like I got a little bit of time, because I felt like I was like just starting to get into it. I was like, I can park and whatever. But we had already picked up 2 double doubles and a fry. And I went in the house and I was like, I'm gonna check my blood sugar to see. And it was 38. And then I was like, holy shit. So then I sat down. He was fine. It was with Donovan. I inhaled the first burger, inhaled the second burger, inhaled the fries. I had a whole drink. And then I was like, man, he was still working on his first burger. I was like, man, I'm still hungry. I went in my kitchen and I have this like bowl that I do for cereal, and I had Cocoa Puffs, and I just made like this most massive bowl of Cocoa Puffs. Come in there, I sit by him, I eat this whole bowl. I'm like, man, I think there was still like half a bowl of milk. I filled it up again and I'm eating. He's sitting there looking at me like he was like he'd just seen like a freaking dog talks English or something. He was like, what the hell is going on? I mean, I think we added it up. I think I did like 2,800 calories in just that one little sitting. But
and then you're probably after that, like the next day, you're like, man, all of that food.
I was like bloated for sure that night. It was like when you do a post show rebound and you just do it wrong, and you're like, I was like mouth breathing in bed because like I couldn't lay on my back because my stomach was so full of food. It was like heavy on my stomach, so I had to lay on my side like I was pregnant, and I was like mouth breathing.
So guys, we're laughing, but this is serious shit.
But that was just naturally. So I mean, basically what I screwed up was I didn't have enough food. How that happened, I didn't have enough food going into my pre-workout meal. And then for some reason, when I do cyclodextrin, it goes through your GI tract so fast, and it doesn't like raise your blood sugar. And then, I just trained really hard, and then I just came out, and it'd been too long. I just got like crazy low blood sugar. So that's a whole nother story. But
especially if you guys are in prep and you're starving yourself and you have a really intense session, that can happen a lot.
There's another story. I remember when I was on prep, I hadn't ever even touched insulin at this point. I was checking my blood. I was working with Phil. This was for my USA's prep. I ate all my meals for the day. I'd like just eaten my last meal, and I think I felt like a little bit low blood sugar. So I checked my blood sugar, and I think I was like 56. And I text Phil, and I was like, oh man, I just ate my last meal and my blood sugar is like 56. And he was like, all right, you're good. He's like, this, because I didn't do anything wrong. I just like had eaten all my foods and everything. But when you're on prep, your metabolism is just so freakishly fast that you are like turning through food. And I was like, all right. So then I think I went like halfway through the night, and then my body ended up waking me up, and I was like in a cold sweat. I ended up drinking half a Gatorade. So, but I remember, I think Fuad was talking about it. You just kind of like, when you're in prep, you just kind of ride those things out, because your body has mechanisms. If you're not putting in exogenous insulin, your body has mechanisms where it has a hormone called glucagon, where it pulls glycogen out of your liver and out of your muscles back into your bloodstream to raise your blood sugar. So when you're trying to lose body fat, you're actually kind of trying to get down to that, like your blood sugars stay really stable at like that, like 60, 65 range.
Yeah, that becomes normal in prep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, your A1C is probably just so crazy good when you're on prep.
Oh, yeah.
But all right, you want to wrap it?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of material today. Again, guys, don't try this at home. If you do start really low, like 1 unit,
yeah,
see how you respond. And I don't mean don't do 1 unit one day, 2 units the next day, and 3 units the next day. Try like 1 unit for like a few weeks and see how that works.
I mean, also start working with a coach that knows what they're doing, like a IFBB Pro coach that can articulate what the different types of insulin are, how they work, what the lives are. You know, don't just work with a guy and he's not going to print off Milos's insulin program and give it to you.
Even if somebody's working with me, I don't know how their body is going to respond.
Yeah.
Depending on how insulin sensitive they are. So I'm going to have to start with like 1 unit.
Yep.
And then try 2 units. And
it's a very advanced, I would say insulin is the most advanced form of bodybuilding. Like once you're at a high intermediate or a professional level is when high intermediate or expert level is when you delve into using insulin. Before that, you can get all the way there with just using, you know, testosterone and different analogs of androgens. You can get so far, you can gain so much muscle by just training, eating, and taking regular gear. So insulin is like one of those, you know, way down the road
This
things.
is after you've pretty much maxed out your genetic potential and you're trying to go to that 2% extra level.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
and make sure you get those, you can buy it from CVS, Walgreens, check your insulin or your glucose level.
Glucose monitor. Yeah. I actually have all my clients send me. So when they send me check-ins every Friday, they send me, you know, their photo check-ins, and then I have them. So when I have them, I have them do a glucose, and then I have them send me a picture of the scale so that I have it all in my notes. But here's one thing that's kind of weird. So people don't get scared of like, oh, I'm already diabetic and I haven't ever done any insulin or anything like that. When you wake up first thing in the morning, your body does something called the dawn effect. And what it will do is it naturally pulls glycogen out of your liver into your bloodstream to wake you up, to wake your brain up, to get you going. And this is like an evolutionary response so that you can get up in a hurry if you need, you know, if there's like a Bengal tiger getting ready to hunt you and your family when you're a caveman. So we still have that in us now. It's just like the way it works. And what you have to do, you can't just check your blood sugar right out of bed because it actually could be really elevated. So what I have my clients do is I have them drink 20 ounces of water and then go walk up and down the street for about 5 minutes and then come back and check their blood sugar, and then it'll be about right. I've actually had myself where I've dropped 15 points. I've, you know, woke up and I've been 102, 105, and then I've done that and I've checked it again and I've been 80, 85 to 92. So that's just like a little aside. But yeah, get a blood glucose monitor. If you're going to use insulin, definitely get a blood glucose monitor.
Get a coach like Luke and Larry who know how to monitor your blood sugar too.
Yeah. All right, Larry. You want Austin? You got anything to
no,
shout
good,
out?
Man. I appreciate. I'm actually going to buy. I'm going to check my glucose. You reminded me. I need to start doing that myself because I haven't been doing that in years. So I learned that off this episode.
Yeah. You want to talk about your show that's coming up?
Oh, yeah. November 1st and the 2nd, we got the Steve Carr and the Natural Show. So if you are not enhanced, you can do a natural NPC show. It's nationally qualified to do the Ben Wieters. And then also if you want to do a real show, like a enhanced show, the Steve Carr Classic, November 2nd in Las Vegas, Nevada, Alexis Park. It's the biggest show in Las Vegas. Gilco Productions that do all the videography for the Olympia will be doing the photography and videography, and Gas will have a booth. I mean, it's a huge, massive show. We recognize as one of the biggest bodybuilders in town and fitness for wellness and all those categories. So if you win that show, you are recognized in Las Vegas. So come out and check it out. Go on my Instagram. You can sign up.
Right on. I'm Luke the Hulk on Instagram. If you want any advice or coaching, you know, you can shoot me a DM. Yep, just Luke the Hulk on Instagram.
And undergroundperformancegym.com. Go on our website, get a free 7-day pass, try out the gym at Hardcore Training Gym in Ventura, California. And also, we have a full line of HD Muscle, Chemex products, and all the powerlifting gear all on sale on, again, www.undergroundperformancegym.com. Also, we will all be in Vegas for the Olympia. Luke is coming.
Oh, man.
I got him a ticket.
Larry talked me into it.
And so we'll be doing a lot of footage there, and hopefully meeting people there at the Olympia, and we'll be doing Olympia wrap-ups and everything else.
All right, let's go.
And we will see you guys next Thursday. We'll be filming, and we'll have it up by the weekend.
See you guys.
If you guys have any topics that you want us to cover as far as PEDs,
anything you want to know, leave it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And leave whatever you want to know, leave it in the comments, and we'll talk about it.
Right on. Thanks, guys.